The United States, they are back on top of the hockey world for the first time since 1980. Team USA men's hockey has captured Olympic gold, and they did it by defeating Canada 2-1 in an instant classic. Yes, an instant classic in the sport of hockey. And it's really thanks to Jack Hughes and his golden goal and a brilliant performance from Connor Hellebuyck. But we are going to talk all about this and whether or not this is a defining moment for USA hockey in their history. And joining me to talk all about that is the host of Locked on NHL Game Night podcast. It's my guy, Shukri Wrights, joining me now. Shukri, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing very well, Dexter. It's a pleasure to be on with you again, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. You know, good vibes around the country. If you're a hockey lover, you had to love what you saw early this morning. If you're on the East Coast, even earlier if you're on the West Coast, but you had to love what you saw here. But I'm doing well, man. We're just here creating content in a blizzard here in the Northeast.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
we are doing well. I wanted
Yeah,
to talk to you, because you're somebody I know who I really respect in terms of your coverage around the sport of hockey, and
thank you.
you've covered it as close as anyone. What was your immediate reaction to the moment when you saw Jack Hughes score the golden goal and Team USA winning gold? What was that immediate reaction? Just take us inside what you were feeling. What were you thinking in that moment?
So the moment itself, it was just a lot of built up emotion because if you remember, going back to the game itself, USA has the 1-0 lead and Cale McCarr ties up at 1-1. That third period was as intense of a hockey period than I can remember in my life watching hockey, and that's no hyperbole like at all, because I think about all of the great, Stanley Cup finals I watched, all of the great games I've seen through the course of my life, now being at 34 years old. But that third period had everybody on the edge of their seats because there were a good number of times that I thought Team Canada was going to actually take the lead in this game, and it just did not happen. But I had a hunch. Something told me grab my phone and just record video content and just to see whatever happens because the next goal that's going to be scored either by Team USA or by Canada is going to be the golden goal. So I did that. So I recorded, and then Jack Hughes skates over to the left wing side. He shoots, he scores, and I just remember just screaming with absolute joy, euphoria. I don't even think Cloud Nine even properly and adequately describes the emotions that I felt earlier this morning, even right now. And I posted the video on social media, and it's gone viral both on Twitter X and TikTok. And and even now, like this was a moment, and this is a moment that 46 years in the making. This wasn't a miracle. This was a team that entered the Olympics on an absolute mission. And Team USA, you got to give them a lot of credit for the grit, the toughness, and the resolve that was shown in this game for them to come out on top as the gold medalists at the Winter Olympics. And Dexter, as an American, as an African Caribbean, gentlemen, I am beyond proud to see Team USA back on top and wish that it's been 46 years because all we've heard in our lifetime, Dexter,
Yeah.
the Miracle on Ice, 1980, that's all we've heard in our entire life. This moment, now, it doesn't take away anything from what the 1980 team accomplished by any stretch of the imagination. But what it does now, it now gives our generation and the people who weren't even alive, like myself in 1980, to witness this, something to look at and just say, wow, this was a pinnacle moment, not just for hockey, but in the history of American sports. Unquestionable about that.
Yeah, and I love that you brought that up. And we're gonna dive a little bit more into that because like you, I was not born yet in 1980, so I didn't see that. Obviously know a ton, you as well too, about the
Yeah.
Miracle on Ice and that great moment that was. And this is a new moment for American hockey here. But I wanted to, if we could, look a little bit big picture here, Shukri, because
Sure.
you just mentioned it, right? The men, they win their first Olympic gold in hockey since 1980, since that miracle on ice.
Yes.
So, in your eyes, how does this victory change the global perception of American men's hockey right now? Does it have any impact on the global perception of the way Team USA is looked at around the world?
150,000% it does permanently
Hmm.
on a big picture level and on a small picture level. I'm going to start big picture and then go small picture.
Okay.
Big picture, it changes the perception forever because of the fact that this was a buildup. This wasn't just some miraculous run. Let's get hot at the right time, like you would typically would see in the Stanley Cup playoffs. This was a buildup. If you think about in terms of going back to last year during the Four Nations, where you saw that incredible Four Nations tournament, the first game between USA and Canada in Montreal, the three fights in 9 seconds, and then the way that the US dominated that game over Canada, and then the championship game itself in Boston at TD Garden between the US and Canada. And despite the fact that the United States lost that game in overtime, Connor McDavid scoring the OT goal, winning championship winning goal for Team Canada, it started then. Bill Guerin, who I have to give him his flowers as part of my response, he was on a mission building this Olympic team because he knew that last year, from the end of the Four Nations, that he had work cut out to do. And he took his time building this roster piece by piece. It wasn't about getting all of the superstar talent. It was about you have enough skill, you need grit, you need that sandpaper type of hockey. And Canadian hockey, for the longest time, had been a combination of skill and also an equal amount of grit, and as well as timely goaltending, as you have seen. So I thought, for example, in 2010, you remember Roberto Luongo, the starting netminder for Team Canada, and in 2014 it was Carey Price, and this year it was Jordan Bennington who was the starting netminder. So you had a little bit of everything, and the U.S. for the longest time was looked upon as the little brother, so to speak. They were building, but you can see it was being built piece by piece by piece. Even though the NHL didn't partake in the Olympics for 12 years up until now, you could see it's starting to like formalize like after last year's Four Nations going into the tournament. And now what you saw throughout the tournament was a team that you had enough skill, you had enough, you know, pizzazz, like guys that are not afraid to drag you into the fight. And I'm talking about the Kachuk brothers, Brady Kachuk, who dragged you into the fight. Matthew Kachuk, who dragged you into the fight. And as well as like Grizzly veterans who had lineage in the Olympics. I'm talking about Brock Nelson, whose grandfather was part of the 1960 Olympic team that won gold for Team USA, whose uncle was part of the 1980 team that won gold for Team USA. So I think that big picture, it was being built up to this time. And throughout the tournament, I just keep thinking it was time. It was time. And you saw the way that they came back against Sweden, Quinn Hughes. And then today against Canada, the game winner scored by his brother, Jack Hughes. Now, small picture. I do think that this game and this team is going to be looked upon the same way as the 1980 team was. So many American born players looked at that team as inspiration. But I also want to make mention that I think both the U.S. men's and women's teams are going to be looked upon as inspiration for what they have done and what they have accomplished, especially here in the United States for the sport of hockey. Because if you think about it, in these Olympics, you now know about the greatness of Layla Edwards from Cleveland Heights, first African American woman to win gold to represent Team USA, and then now Seth Jones, who got injured before the Olympics started, so he had to withdraw, but he was selected to be part of the team. He would have believe the first African American defenseman selected to represent Team USA and win gold. But it goes to show you that not only what Team USA accomplished was massive on the international stage as being the best in the world, men and women, but on a local level, nationally, it is only going to be felt for many years to come. The growth of hockey here in the United States on a national level.
No, I'm glad you brought that up too. I think the growth of hockey here on the national level in the United States, and you talk about Seth Jones, and you talk about Layla Edwards, right? Two black players, especially during Black History Month here now,
Yes,
being part of that growth of the game, it is something to do. And hockey's talked more about trying to push their Hockey is for Everyone initiative, and hasn't always felt like that. But
correct.
to see that growth there within just even here in the US would be really nice. I think it's a great point by you there. To You talked about Jack Hughes, right, scoring the golden goal, and
Yeah,
you can't talk about this game without talking about Connor Hellebuyck and what he
absolutely.
did between the pipes, right? Like he delivered a legendary performance in that. There's no doubt about that. What do you think this tournament does for the legacy and the leadership status of this current core of Team USA moving forward?
That's such a great question and a loaded one. So I'm gonna try to break it down into multi layers as best as I possibly can. In terms of the leadership code, what does it do? Number one, this cements the legacy of Connor Hellebuyck. Hellebuyck is a Hall of Famer, a hockey Hall of Famer. He already had won three Vezina trophies as the best goaltender in the NHL prior to this tournament. And also, Connor Hellebuyck, because of this performance during these Olympics, his international legacy is cemented this game alone. And it's not just because of the W, but for all of us, for the millions who watched this game, Connor Hellebuyck was the singular reason why, when Canada took momentum for all of the second period and for much of the third period, Connor Hellebuyck was the reason why this game stayed tied at 1-1. There was nothing that he could have done in terms of the Cale Makar goal that was scored by Team Canada tied up at 1. But in terms of Connor Hellebuyck, he's going to be remembered not just for his performance, but one singular moment that's going to be forever etched and frozen in time. And that is the save, the golden save on by Canadian defenseman Devontae's right when he was on the doorstep of Connor Hellebuyck. Everybody is going to frame frozen that picture, and it's going around social media now. You can go back and watch the clip on social media. That was the moment because that was part of when Canada had basically tilted the ice in their favor. So as far as Connor Hellebuyck is concerned, his legacy is cemented. He's already got the Vezina. He's dominated. He didn't just play well. He dominated on the international level. So, in my opinion, he's now a Hall of Famer. No question, if ands or buts about it. Now, as far as the leadership group is concerned, I think the guys like Brady Tkachuk, who, in my opinion, I think he was, even though he didn't wear the C, but I felt like he was more of a de facto captain of Team USA more than Austin Matthews does. And that's no shade towards Austin Matthews as well, given that he's also the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs in the NHL, Brady Tkachuk being the captain of the Ottawa Senators. But I will say that what you saw from this leadership group from the Tkachuk brothers, the Hughes brothers, Austin Matthews, Brock Nelson, what it does is that it created a whole new culture for Team USA because you have heard throughout time and time again, Team USA is a brotherhood. And you saw that on so many levels from 1980, like members of the 80 team congratulating the 2026 gold medal winning team. And then, as well as a moment that I think will be remembered even more than just the gold medal winning goal by Jack Hughes. I'm trying not to get emotional here, but the group bringing out the late Johnny Gaudreau's jersey at the very end, and his daughters, including Johnny Jr.'s second birthday today. You cannot put words into it. It's impossible. I'm not going to even attempt to, but it's impossible to encapsulate how powerful that moment was because everybody knows, I know it. Johnny Gaudreau, if he was alive today, would have 1000% been on Team USA's Olympic team. And the fact that the team honored him, cherished him throughout, even going back to last year's Four Nations, and as well as like in Milan with his family and his parents being in the stands and his wife and their kids, I thought that spoke volumes to the brotherhood and the family that Team USA hockey is. And that I think is probably the biggest part of its legacy from this tournament that's going to be carried on for generations to come.
Yeah, talking about the brotherhood being the biggest part of legacy, that is so important, and what they did for the Gaudreau family, that was a really touching moment. I could see how it touched you, just seeing it was
Yeah.
so nice, and having them be able to celebrate with Team USA after this win, it was fitting. And you brought it up. They had been honoring him throughout the run, right? They had his jersey around in the dressing room. They had
Yes.
him around the whole time. So it was really a nice job by Team USA to do this. I think when you look, Shukri, at this Team USA roster, right? They're filled with players who either they're in their prime or they are entering it. So how important is that when you start projecting what Team USA could look like at the World Cup of Hockey in a couple of years or the 2030 Olympics in 4 years?
Yes.
How important is it that this core is, right at the prime or entering it? And when you project the roster, when you look at that, you feel like the future's bright for this team. You would think, at least, right?
1,000% yes. And the reason is because when you talk about the core, I think about guys like the Hughes brothers. They're
Mm,
entering the prime of their careers now.
yep.
And for me, I think about the Kachuk brothers, who are also entering the prime of their careers now. I think about Connor Hellebuyck, who could very well be part of the World Cup of Hockey Team USA team in a couple of years from now. I think about the fact that Charlie McAvoy, another one, one of the great American defensemen in our game right now, currently, another one, prime of his career as being one of the alternate captains of the Boston Bruins. So I think about the core, and obviously, I mean, there's also Matt Boldy of the Minnesota Wild as well, who going to be a part of Team USA moving forward. They're young. They're in their 20s, late 20s or mid 20s. And that's the beautiful aspect of it. This experience, now that they have done it at the Olympic level, is going to carry whenever the NHL has involvement in international tournament, whether it be the World Cup of Hockey or the next Winter Olympics in 2030. I think that this core and as well as seeing how this core will carry this experience moving forward will absolutely be a huge part. And the fact that they're in the prime of their careers also gives Bill Guerin, the general manager for Team USA Winter Olympics, like the edge, in my opinion, in terms of roster construction and building, and knowing that these guys who were part of the gold medal winning Olympic team is going to be part of this program potentially moving forward as well.
Yeah, I would be inclined to agree with that too. I think when you look at this game, Shukri, and what this Team USA, what they showed out in this game, you saw some of the things you mentioned. You used the word grit before, right? You could say that's
Mhm.
discipline. They had structure. There was a level of confidence that you saw against. Like, we have to give Team Canada their props. It was an elite
Yes.
Canadian team. They have been the gold standard, if you want to say, in the sport, right?
Mhm.
What do you think it says that we saw those things? Discipline, structure, confidence. What does it say about the maturity and the hockey IQ of this group that we watched compared to maybe past USA teams where, no shade to them, but maybe they didn't have all those things come together at the right time? What do you think it says about this group?
I think it says a number of things. Number one, I think it says to Bill Guerin, who was very methodical about how he wanted to build this team. There was criticism when he first announced the Olympic roster of some notable names that were left off this team, most notably Jason Robertson, who was a perennial 30 goal scorer in the National Hockey League, who was left off this roster, and many thought that he was going to be a part of Team USA's Olympic team, and he wasn't. And there were a number of other guys who could have made it but were left off. And Bill Guerin was very intentional in saying, "Listen, I can add all the firepower I want, but when it's time to muck, I want guys who are going to be ready to be the dog in the fight." You saw that all Olympic long. You saw that from Brady Kachuk. You saw that from Matthew Kachuk. You saw that from Charlie McAvoy, who elevated his physicality. I had a colleague of mine ask me, "Yo, Shu, did you see have you noticed like Charlie McAvoy's like physicality has it gone up during the?" I was like, "Yes, actually it has," because like even as a diehard Bruins fan and knowing his game very well, but I was like, no, no, no. He's been a lot more physical as a defenseman, as a top pairing defenseman for Team USA than he has in the past. And I think that speaks to the type of brand of hockey that Bill Guerin and as well as Mike Sullivan, the head coach of Team USA's Olympic team, wanted to instill from day number one. And I do think that ultimately, when you think about why they were ultimately able to break through, grit had a lot to do with it. Yes. Two, mental toughness. Not saying that the previous teams were not mentally tough, but you think about the adversity. You think about like the fact that there were a couple of times during the tournament that Team USA either just didn't look completely themselves or they just looked a little off and needed a little bit of a spark. They stuck to their game until they were able to also take over their game. Today's game was a true litmus test because when Canada tied it up on via Cale Makar's game tying goal, I thought that it was a test whether to see was Team USA going to remain true to the structure and
Mm.
what got him here, or were they going to remain true to the structure, be physical, defend well, and also get the stellar goaltending, which they obviously did from Connor Hellebuyck. And the answer to all that was a resounding yes. They did all of those things. I think that it also speaks to the absolute will of not weltering, and also gotta give this part credit too. The penalty kill itself is the biggest, I think, one of, if not the biggest story in this tournament. And I talked about I made a tweet about it earlier on Twitter. That penalty kill when Canada was on 5-1-3 early in the game, I thought was probably the biggest penalty kill in history of the Olympics, considering that Canada had the greatest assembly of collection of forwards in the history of the sport, and two, considering that Connor Hellebuyck was under siege. He was absolutely under siege, and he had to stand on his head, and he did exactly just that. So I think like the penalty kill had a lot to do with it, along with everything else that I already mentioned as well.
Yeah, no, there was a lot to do with it that went into them winning this game, coming through in the gold medal game. The last thing I think for me here, Shukri, because I like to do maybe a final sort of overlook or look ahead, I'll say here.
Sure.
When we look back at this 5, 10 years from now, do you think that we're going to view this gold medal that Team USA captured here as a single historic moment, or do you think we'll look back at this and say, huh, this is the true beginning of a golden era for USA men's hockey? Which one do you think it'll be?
That's a great question because I think, forget just 5 to 10 years, I think the next 20, 30 years, I think this is going to be the start of something huge because now more kids are going to be interested in wanting to play hockey. And when I say kids, I'm not just talking in terms of, like white kids. I'm talking about even black kids or even minority kids and so forth. Because you see that in Canada already. Whereas in Canada, you see the Asian Canadians be involved. Black Canadians long been a part of the hockey fabric of Canada. You think about like guys like Willie O'Ree, the first black player in the history of the NHL. He's from Canada. And you think about Grant Fuhrer, the first black goaltender inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame, part of those great Edmonton teams of the 80s as well. So I think for what we saw from both the U.S. men's and the women's, because you got to give the women's credit too, because what I saw was both men and women, they laid the foundation that it is very possible to commit to yourself and commit to the dream. If you have a dream, go for it. And that's why I made mention earlier, in this recording that seeing like Layla Edward was so huge because now you know it's possible to be a young black girl and to dominate not just only at the collegiate level like she's been doing for the University of Wisconsin, but also on a national level for Team USA Olympic women's hockey team. And now, as well as for Team USA, you're going to see. young black kids here in the United States want to play hockey, and to see that it is very possible to play this sport as well. So I think in terms of representation, in terms of cultural impact, you already see the uptick in terms of hockey coverage, but I think now you're going to also see more kids wanting to give hockey a chance to play as well, because of the fact that this team in this year, this Olympic year, 2026, is going to be remembered ultimately as the year that barriers that were once perceived as in the United States being knocked down in terms of what could be possible for hockey and its growth of its importance in the United States.
I love that, man. I love that. I love that that could be the major takeaway, like you said, even 20, 30 years from now, looking back at this moment of Team USA men winning the gold. Also, the same as you said, we cannot forget our ladies on the Team
Yes,
USA side also winning the gold. A huge moment for hockey here in this country, and a great day on Sunday, 46 years since the Miracle on Ice. This one,
46
as you
years to
said,
the day.
to the
Oh yeah.
day. Yes, to the
Hmm.
day. I'm with you. This wasn't a miracle. This wasn't a miracle on ice. This was a mission. I like that you said that earlier. It was a
Yeah.
mission by Team USA Hockey, and they got the job done. Everybody, that is Shukri Wrights. Check him out on the Locked On NHL Game Night podcast. Does a fantastic job hosting there.
Thank you.
One of the best voices in hockey. Somebody I love to come on and talk hockey about here. Shukri, I'm glad you enjoyed the game. I'm glad you had a moment that went a little bit viral and you screamed and yelled. Hopefully, you didn't
Yeah.
disturb any of your neighbors, but I'm glad you had a good moment the way the Team USA did as well. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me on, Dexter. It's been a blast coming on to be able to talk about the historic achievement and event that took place today for Team USA men's Olympic hockey team. And this is the beginning of something very special here in the United States in terms of hockey and the growth of the sport here in the United States. And I can't wait to talk more about it with you, and as well as hockey topics down the road with you as well.
We will for sure, my friend. Thank you. Appreciate you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Dexter.